So I feel like this is going to be a shorter video because I kind of already made this comparison a few months ago. If you've stuck with me, you might remember my 10.2 inch or 7th gen versus Air 3 video where I compare every aspect, but one part of that video that is now irrelevant or doesn't apply to this comparison is the performance category, because as you may know, the iPad 8th gen now has the same A12 Bionic that's been in the iPad Air 3 since 2019. So in this video, I want to just compare some of the hardware differences between these two tablets and help you decide which one is right for you as of right now. But before we continue here, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like, comment, and of course, click the bell icon if you haven't already. So the first main difference is with the bodies themselves. As you can see here, the iPad Air is significantly slimmer. It comes in at around 6 millimeters thick, whereas the 8th gen comes in at around 7.5 millimeters thick, just like the original iPad Air did in 2013. You also get an air gap with the display here, which does not look as, I'm looking at the wrong iPad. The air gap is not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's not like a fun thing. It sort of adds like a hollow sound when you tap on the screen, and it makes, I don't know, like the interaction experience just a little bit less immersive. With the iPad Air, of course, you have a laminated display, which makes touching it more pleasant. It feels like you're actually touching the pixels, so that is a premium you might want to pay for. Also, the iPad Air screen is a little bit bigger. It is 10.5 inches diagonally, and it has slimmer bezels, as you can see here, which looks a little bit more modern, although I will say here with the home button, it does look a little bit outdated compared to the new iPad Air and, of course, the iPad Pros. And yeah, the iPad 10.2 inch or the 8th gen is the oldest looking iPad that Apple sells new. It's literally just like the iPad Air, like I said, that was launched in 2013. Thicker bezels, but still it's very similar in the way it looks. So if you're not super particular about aesthetics, I wouldn't really worry, but the displays are definitely different on both of these besides their design and their lamination or non-lamination. With the iPad Air, you get a higher quality display with True Tone. So it means that this display will change color depending on the room temperature. So it has like a sensor that will detect the temperature of the room and adjust the white point of the panel, which makes it look more realistic and pleasant. I would say the iPad 8th gen's display is overall bluer. It's very colorful, it's very sharp, it has the same PPI, but it's lower quality in that regard in terms of color. So if that's important to you, you might want to spend a little bit more here. I also want to do a quick speaker test, just live, because I don't remember if the speakers on the Air are that much better. So we'll find out here. I'm going to open up YouTube and play some, non-copyrighted music here. So I'm going to play NCS's newest release. I have both of these iPad speakers pointed towards my mic, which is off camera, and I'm going to start off with the iPad 8th gen and then move on to the Air to see if we notice any difference in audio quality. So here is the iPad 8th gen. And here is the iPad Air. Okay, if there is a difference, it's in volume. The iPad Air's speaker is much louder, substantially louder. It's not like astronomically louder. I'm saying louder too much. But basically, there's better speakers in the iPad Air. It might even sound a bit more clear, but you guys be the judge. You can actually hear it on the mic. So there's that. So there are better speakers on the iPad Air, but does that justify spending an extra $100? Maybe not, but I don't know, maybe you're an audiophile, and it doesn't really matter because both of these devices have a headphone jack anyway, unlike the newest iPad Air and the iPad Pros, so that's a good quality of both these tablets regardless. One thing these tablets do have in common though is a shared set of accessories, at least from Apple for that matter, because they do have pretty much the same footprint and the same smart connectors. So for example, the Apple Pencil first gen works with both. It's worked with the iPad 6th gen and other iPads as well, and you plug it directly into your iPad to make it look like a unicorn, you know the drill. And then this case here, which is directly from Apple, connects to both of these iPads once again with the smart connector. I can do it with my 8th gen magnetically here. Bada bing, bada boom, you're in business, and I can rip this off and then add it to my iPad Air like so. Once again, same drill. same case. So I guess that's nice to know that there are a lot of interchangeable accessories. However, some are not, like the Logitech Combo Touch. There is an iPad Air 3 version and an iPad 8th Gen / 7th Gen version that you have to buy. So keep that in mind as well. But anyway, going back to highlighting differences, the front-facing camera setups are significantly different. The iPad 8th Gen has a 1.2 megapixel camera, potato quality, whereas the iPad Air has a 7 megapixel front-facing camera, which is a lot better. So if you're taking selfies or you do a lot of video calling, then maybe this might be worth the upgrade. But honestly, like with Zoom calls and FaceTime calls, I've not had a problem making them with either of these. I don't really think megapixel count really matters in that regard. But once again, if you're taking selfies with your iPad, then this might be the better buy. And finally, the last two differences I want to highlight have to do with storage and pricing. So the cheapest baseline iPad Air shipped with 64 gigs of memory, which I think is just enough for most people even in 2020, whereas the iPad 8th Gen, like its previous Gen 6th and 7th Gen iPads, ship with 32 gigs of RAM, ship with 32 gigs of memory to start. And I think that's sort of limited, especially if you want to do anything creative. I've barely gotten by with my 32 gig 7th Gen, although it is possible. But yeah, if you want to do anything remotely creative, or if you want to download files or access movies or videos offline, you're going to want to get the 128 gig model, which is going to, run you $429 new, probably a little bit cheaper once we start seeing some discounts, so keep that in mind. You might be able to snag a 128 gig 8th Gen for like $350, maybe $380 in the coming months, so, that is something to look out for. But yeah, that brings us to pricing as well. iPad Air new cost $500 to start, but right now I'm seeing it used for like $400, $420, $430, $450. So it is definitely more expensive than the iPad 8th Gen. So let's just compare. For $329, you get 32 gigs of RAM, the same processor, and a clunkier design. And then for like $120 more used, you get a better looking design, a bigger display, and better speakers. But you have to keep in mind that if you're buying a used product, the battery is going to be a bit degraded, so that is sort of a downside. It's also used and has some cosmetic wear and tear. You also can't get Apple Care on that product if it doesn't have it already. So some downsides to buying a older or used iPad off of Swappa or eBay, although I recommend you do it. It's not the worst experience. I've done it several times. All of the older gen iPads that I have for like reference are off of Swappa, so go ahead, dive in. Just be smart when you buy used products. I have a video about that. I'll leave a link in the video description. But anyway, let's come to a conclusion here. Maybe the slimmer, trimmer body of the iPad Air is worth it to you. Maybe you want the bigger, better, true tone equipped display. Maybe you want a better front-facing camera and speakers. However, you're gonna have to pay more for that, maybe even $100 plus more, even for a used model, which isn't like the most ideal situation. Whereas with the iPad 8th Gen, you get the same performance, a bit of a clunkier, thicker design, but you get double the storage for the same cost of the iPad Air 3 for a new iPad 8th Gen, by the way, without a degraded battery. And if I were you, and if I was like, a student and I wanted to use this tablet for content creation or creative work, I would honestly go for a 128 gig 8th Gen model, especially considering the fact that the performance is exactly the same with the iPad Air 3. So that's my recommendation. I think you get more of a bang for your buck with the 128 gig 8th Gen compared to a 64 gig Air 3. But again, if you want the slimmer, trimmer aspects of the Air 3, then if you can snag this tablet for under $400, then maybe I would. But yeah, once again, I think the 8th Gen 128 gig model is a great value. And with that said, that about wraps up this comparison. I hope that it's been helpful if you've been eyeing both these tablets. And I'll say it again, I think the 8th Gen is a fantastic value, especially since Apple added the powerful and capable A12 Bionic chip. I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, and of course, subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.